For a long time, Daniel believed wealthy people operated from a different rule book. He imagined them making calls to private bankers, moving money through systems the rest of the world never got access to, sitting somewhere comfortable while compounding did work that ordinary people simply could not replicate. He assumed the gap between his financial life and theirs was a gap of information, secrets he had not been let in on, connections he would never have, opportunities that simply did not reach people earning what he earned. Then Daniel spent about a year paying close attention to the people who had actually built real, lasting wealth. Not the ones performing wealth on social media, the real ones. The orthodontist in his 40s who had quietly accumulated $2 million in invested assets on an income most people would consider good but not exceptional. The high school history teacher who retired at 61 with a fully funded retirement account and zero debt. The couple 2 streets over with a combined household income of $89,000 who had crossed $1 million net worth without anyone around them noticing. What Daniel found was not a secret. It was almost the opposite of a secret. It was 8 specific things these people paid close, consistent, almost obsessive attention to. Things that most people either ignored entirely or briefly acknowledged and then moved past without ever actually changing their behavior around. Those 8 things are what this video is about. Every one of them is available to you right now with the income you currently have in the life you are already living. Obsession 1. Their net worth, not their income. The first and fundamental thing wealthy people track with genuine intensity is their net worth, not their salary, not their annual income, their net worth. The total of everything they own minus the total of everything they owe. Most people focus on income. They celebrate raises, they compare salaries, they define their financial progress by the number on their paycheck. Wealthy people find this almost baffling because income is just water flowing through a pipe. Net worth is how much stays in the bucket. You can have an enormous flow and a nearly empty bucket if the pipe leaks badly enough. Daniel calculated his net worth for the first time at 31. The number he arrived at made him sit quietly for several minutes. After 8 years of earning a reasonable salary, the total of what he actually owned minus what he actually owed was less than $20,000. 8 years of income, less than $20,000 remaining. The pipe had been flowing consistently. The bucket was almost empty. Wealthy people know their net worth the way you know your phone battery percentage, not always to the exact decimal, but roughly, always, as a number that informs how they move through financial decisions. They check it monthly. When it stagnates, they investigate. When it drops, they adjust. The number drives the behavior, and without the number, there is nothing to drive. Obsession 2. The gap between income and spending. Wealthy people are almost clinically focused on the distance between what comes in and what goes out. This gap, sometimes called the savings rate in financial writing, is the engine of all wealth accumulation. The wider it is, the faster wealth builds. The narrower it is, the more a person stays precisely where they are, regardless of how much they earn. The research on this is consistent enough to be uncomfortable. Studies of self-made millionaires repeatedly find that the overwhelming majority lived consistently below their means across their entire working lives. Not occasionally, not when times were tight, always. They earned a raise and did not lifestyle inflate to absorb it. They received a bonus and invested it rather than spent it. They treated the gap as something to be protected rather than something to be narrowed. The average American saves somewhere between 3 and 5% of after-tax income. Wealthy people, by contrast, typically save and invest 15 to 25%. On an identical income, The difference between a 5% savings rate and a 20% savings rate compounded across 30 years is not a small difference. It is the difference between a modest cushion and genuine financial independence. Same economy, same stock market, same opportunities available, completely different outcome because one person protected the gap and the other let the lifestyle absorb it. Obsession 3. The true cost of debt. Wealthy people do not simply avoid debt. They understand at a precise level what debt actually costs, not just the interest rate, but the full compounding cost in both real dollars and opportunity cost. When a wealthy person looks at a credit card carrying a $5,000 balance at a high interest rate, they do not see $5,000 of debt. They see the total of every payment that balance will require, plus the investment returns that money would have generated if it had been working in the market instead. The real cost of consumer debt, calculated honestly, is almost always 2 to 4 times the original balance. Daniel made this calculation for the first time on his car loan and sat with the result for a long time. He was paying monthly installments on a vehicle purchase that, when he added up every payment plus interest over the full loan term, cost him considerably more than the sticker price. And the interest paid, money that bought him nothing, produced nothing, and left him with nothing, represented investment growth he would never see. That is what consumer debt actually costs. Not the rate, not the payment, the compounding returns that money will never generate because it was spent servicing interest instead. Obsession 4. Compound interest as a living, breathing force. Wealthy people do not merely know that compound interest exists, they feel it. They have internalized the mathematics of compounding so completely that it operates as a lens through which every financial decision is evaluated. A 30-year-old who understands compounding viscerally does not see a monthly investment contribution as a sacrifice. They see the future value of that money 35 years from now, grown by consistent market returns into something many times its original size. They are not giving something up, they are planting something. The sacrifice framing and the planting framing describe the same action, but they produce completely different behaviors over time. The brutal reverse of this understanding is equally important. Every dollar spent on consumption instead of invested at 30 does not cost $1. It costs the compounded future value of that dollar, which at historical market returns is 5 to 8 times the original amount over 35 years. Wealthy people see price tags in 2 currencies simultaneously, today's dollars and tomorrow's dollars. Most people can only read one. That single difference in financial literacy explains more about diverging wealth outcomes than income ever could. Obsession 5. Tax efficiency, quietly and consistently. This is among the least discussed and most financially impactful obsessions of people who build real wealth. They are relentless about minimizing how much of their income and investment growth goes to taxes, not through anything complicated or questionable, but through the legal structures the tax code explicitly provides and that most people either do not know about or cannot be bothered to use. Retirement accounts with pre-tax contributions reduce taxable income in the year of contribution. The money grows without being taxed annually. Roth accounts allow after-tax contributions to grow and be withdrawn completely tax-free in retirement. Health savings accounts provide a triple tax advantage available to anyone with a qualifying insurance plan. These are not exotic instruments. They are standard accounts available through most employers and financial institutions, sitting unused or underused by the majority of people who could benefit from them. The compounding effect of tax-free or tax-deferred growth over a 30-year career is staggering when calculated honestly. Wealthy people see a retirement contribution not as money locked away, but as money liberated from taxation and placed in an environment where it compounds without the IRS taking a share of the annual growth. That perspective, maintained consistently across decades, is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in outcomes. Obsession 6. Their credit score as a financial instrument. Most people treat their credit score as a report card, pass or fail, a number that reflects how responsibly they have behaved. Wealthy people treat it as a financial instrument that directly determines the price they pay for every major transaction involving borrowed money. The dollar difference between a mediocre credit score and an excellent one on a 30-year mortgage is not trivial. It runs into the tens of thousands of dollars in additional interest paid over the life of the loan. On auto financing, insurance premiums, and in some contexts even rental applications, credit score differences translate into real ongoing costs that accumulate across years. Wealthy people monitor this number with the same regularity they apply to their net worth. They keep their credit utilization low. They pay every balance in full every month. They request credit limit increases periodically to improve their utilization ratio without increasing spending. They dispute errors immediately when they appear. None of these behaviors is time-consuming. Together, they maintain a number that saves significant money across every major financial transaction for the rest of a person's life. Obsession 7. Where their time actually goes. This was the finding that Daniel most surprised when he examined what genuinely wealthy people actually do differently. They apply to their time the same intentionality they apply to their money. They track it, protect it, and allocate it toward activities that compound: learning, building, maintaining their health, and developing skills that increase their financial actions over time. Research on the daily habits of wealthy individuals consistently finds that they spend significantly less time on passive entertainment and significantly more time on reading, learning, and deliberate skill development than the general population. This is not presented as a moral judgment. It is a resource allocation observation. Time is the one asset that cannot be earned back. Every hour has a cost, not in dollars, but in what it could have produced instead. Daniel started replacing 1 hour of evening scrolling with reading about personal finance, investing, and behavioral economics. The change in his financial decisions over the following year was not dramatic day to day. Looking back across 12 months, he had made decisions he would not have made before, not because he was trying harder, but because he understood more. Understanding, applied through better decisions over time, is what compounds. The hour felt small. The accumulated effect was not. Obsession 8. The specific financial traps at their current life stage. The final obsession ties all the others together. Wealthy people do not just understand money in the abstract. They understand which specific financial mistakes are most likely to hit them based on exactly where they currently are in life, and they build systems to avoid those traps before arriving at them. In your 20s, the primary trap is delaying investment because the amounts feel too small to matter, while simultaneously normalizing debt as a way of life. In your 30s, the trap is lifestyle inflation triggered by career advancement and social pressure. The house that stretches the budget, the car that matches the neighborhood, the lifestyle that absorbs every raise before savings sees a dollar of it. In your 40s, the trap is the financial sandwich of supporting children and aging parents simultaneously, while failing to capture peak earning years in retirement accounts. In your 50s and beyond, the traps involve irreversible decisions about retirement timing, Social Security claiming strategy, and asset allocation that most people make without fully understanding the long-term mathematics. Wealthy people study the map before walking through the terrain. They know what is coming before it arrives. a 33-year-old who understands that lifestyle inflation is the primary wealth killer for his age group and builds deliberate systems against it, doesn't need willpower to avoid the trap. He has already stepped around it. The trap that catches most people catches them because nobody showed them it was there. Daniel is not wealthy yet, but he's building something real, which is a different thing from where he was 3 years ago, when he thought the gap between him and genuinely wealthy people was information he didn't have access to. The information was always accessible. The retirement accounts were always there to be opened. The employer match was always sitting unclaimed. The credit card could always have been paid in full every month. The gap between what was available and what he was doing with it was not income, it was not luck, it was not connections or timing or a secret playbook, it was attention. Wealthy people pay close, consistent attention to 8 things. They track their net worth, they protect the gap between income and spending, they understand the true cost of debt, they feel compound interest as a real force rather than an abstract concept, they optimize for tax efficiency every year, they maintain their credit score as a financial instrument, they guard their time the way they guard their money, and they study the specific traps waiting for them at each stage of life before those stages arrive. These are not 8 separate skills requiring separate effort. They are one skill, financial literacy, viewed through 8 different lenses. And financial literacy, unlike income, does not require anyone else's permission to acquire. You probably already earn enough. What changes everything is understanding what to do with it.